New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu has decided against running for senator in 2022. The Republican incumbent announced Tuesday he will instead seek a fourth term as governor. The Senate GOP saw Sununu as the party's best chance to take control of the chamber next year. If Senate Republicans can defend their current seats, they'll need to flip just one more to win the majority. CBS News political reporter Adam Brewster has been following all of this and joins us now with more. Hi there, Adam. So it was largely expected Chris Sununu would challenge Democratic incumbent Maggie Hassan in next year's Senate race. Why did he decide to instead seek another term as governor?
Well, Elaine, that certainly did come as a surprise, and Governor Sununu said he didn't even call Rick Scott or Mitch McConnell. Rick Scott is the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, the Senate Republicans campaign arm. Mitch McConnell, of course, the minority leader in the Senate. They were among those who had been courting Governor Sununu, believing that he was a strong opponent to defeat Senator Maggie Hassan next year. But what it largely relied on, Governor Sununu said, is he just doesn't want to go work in the Senate. He said that he would rather go 120 miles an hour spending time getting things done in New Hampshire than going to Washington and having to deal with partisan politics and sitting and debating. He even said, you know, sort of the more he talked to senators, and he said he talked to many senators and other Republicans about what the job is like in Washington, he said sometimes a win is doing nothing or just blocking something. And people would say, oh, you might have to wait a couple of years before we can really get anything done. And he said, look, I'm a governor, right? During COVID, I had to make all sorts of decisions every day that had direct impact on New Hampshire residents' lives. I wouldn't be doing that in the U.S. Senate. And he said there's a role for that, and there's other people who might be fit for that. But he basically took aim at the gridlock in Washington and said, that's not something I want to be a part of at this time.
Yeah, a pretty biting commentary. And it's a huge difference between being an executive, a chief executive of a state, and then being one of a member of a legislative body where, as you say, you know, gridlock seems to be the norm. But is it likely, Adam, that Chris Sununu will win re-election? How popular is he among New Hampshire voters?
He's certainly quite popular. He's, long enjoyed a strong approval rating in the state. Just a year ago, he won re-election. New Hampshire elects its governors every 2 years by more than 30 points in a state that President Biden won by 7 points, that Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen won her race by 15 points. So he totally flipped the narrative of Democratic successes in otherwise in statewide elections last year. That being said, look, Democrats, are still eyeing this race and still believe that there is, a chance to go after him depending on who the candidate is. Democrats in the state have attacked him over a law he signed earlier this year regarding access to abortion. That will likely be a major issue in his reelection campaign. And while Senate Republicans certainly were disappointed to see the decision from Governor Sununu today, the Republican Governors Association sort of cheered it and said, we'll be there standing by Governor Sununu, working with him to get him another term in New Hampshire.
Interesting. So back on that Senate contest, are there any other potential GOP challengers planning to run against Senator Hassan?
We'll see who raises their hand at this point. There is, one candidate, a former general, who has had trouble sort of raising money. He raised $60,000 in the third quarter, which is not anywhere close to the amount of money that you need to run a Senate campaign in 2022. A lot of eyes immediately turned to former Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte. That's who Maggie Hassan defeated in her 2016 race. Ayotte put out a statement today saying, Chris Sununu is doing a great job for New Hampshire. I'm going to be working to get Republicans elected back here. A source close to her, said that she is not going to be a candidate in that race next year. There's former Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown. He told WMUR, a local station in New Hampshire, that he is going to be focused on his wife's race. His wife is running for Congress in New Hampshire, and he said that's sort of where all of his attention is. So, those were two names that were kind of floated out there. There's, the state Senate President Chuck Morse, is a name that has been kind of just mentioned broadly as going out there. Matt Mowers, who is someone who is also running for Congress in New Hampshire, ran for Congress in 2020, may be someone who Republicans try to persuade to, switch and run for the Senate. But, Governor Sununu said today he's heard from a lot of people privately who were interested in running if he was not interested, right? So there were a lot of people sort of sitting back and waiting to make a move depending on what he did, knowing that he would have been very difficult to beat in a Republican primary. So now, there are probably some people picking up the phone today and making some calls around New Hampshire saying, hey, you think I got a shot in this thing now?
Yeah, I imagine those phone lines are burning up right now. We'll wait, as you said, to see who actually raises their hand. In the meantime, what other states, Adam, are Senate Republicans keeping an eye on and hoping to flip in 2022?
Well, I should say, New Hampshire is still going to be one of their top targets, right? They have, continued to take aim, at Senator Hassan, saying, pointing to, so she's had some issues with her favorability numbers recently. They believe she's still a vulnerable candidate. But then you have to look at, the three big states where they'll be going on offense: Arizona, Georgia, Nevada. Those are three states that President Biden won narrowly in 2020. Certainly, in Georgia, Republicans still feel that it is a red state and not the blue decisions that were made at the federal level in 2020 when President Biden won. And then you had, of course, Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock win in those runoff elections. Raphael Warnock is up for re-election in Georgia. In Arizona, they Republicans feel okay about their chances going after Mark Kelly there. And then in Nevada, Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto is up for re-election. There's a few Republicans who have raised their hands there. All of those states also have gubernatorial elections in 2022. There's a handful of states that will have very high-profile Senate and gubernatorial races. Republicans also have some seats to defend. They have had some members who are retiring, right? There are open seats in North Carolina and Pennsylvania where, it will remains to be seen, which candidates will emerge in those primaries and how strong the Republican chances will be, once those candidates are chosen. A question still of whether Senator Ron Johnson will run for re-election again in Wisconsin. And if he doesn't, who picks up the mantle for the Republican Party in that state? And then, further down, there's, Ohio and Florida have, been more solidly red states in recent elections, but Democrats are running, relatively strong candidates there. Val Demings and in Florida and Tim Ryan in Ohio. Val Demings raised a ton of money in the third quarter. We learned in 2020 that money does not automatically equal wins, right? That's why we do not have Senator Jamie Harrison right now. But, certainly she has been putting together a strong campaign to challenge Marco Rubio. So Republicans are looking at the map, looking at places where they feel good about their chances on offense. But they do have some seats that they have to defend in this 50-50 Senate, and which will be a closely watched series of races to see who controls the Senate for the second 2 years of President Biden's first term.
Yeah, so many fascinating storylines to watch here in the months ahead. Adam Brewster, Adam, always great to have you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Elaine.